what's been the best bike that you've ridden? Like,
Oof.
if you had to pick like a year that was just like insane.
Um, Hard to say because I would be like, "Oh, the track that I rode was a really fast bike." I think that was a really good package for what I had. Wouldn't wanna race it now, though. My bike would, like, smoke that bike. So, it's hard because the technology's honestly, like, changed so much over the years, it's hard to tell. Um, Fortunately, I haven't had to ride a lot of bad bikes throughout my career, which has been pretty sweet. Like, I think back, like, the Yeti that I rode, the 303,
Mhm.
uh, both versions of it, those were both, I think, really good bikes. I never rode anything else around that time, but I really liked those bikes. If there was a weak link there, it was definitely me, not the bike.
Mhm.
That was good. The track was really good. I feel like that package, that bike was really fast. I don't think it was probably the best in the bumps or the best at whatever, but it carried speed, it rolled fast,
Mhm.
and, I made it stiff enough to be able to slam into stuff and not slow down, which is what I was looking for. I feel like that bike was really good, really predictable, like, I just those designs of bikes, those simple what are they called, like, 4-bar bike or whatever, like, they don't do anything weird, like, they're pretty predictable to me. I've always ridden those really well. That bike was good. Then we went to Specialized. I definitely struggled on the year 1 Specialized that I
Mhm.
had, which was the stock bike. It was just, I think, a sizing thing, honestly. Same thing with Intense a little bit. When I went to Specialized, I rode a medium, I think, at first or something, and, it was just too small, like, and that bike, like, was really hard for me to keep on the track. I really struggled with the stability of it and, like, being able to trust it. Like, I'd go down a straightaway and, like, at Fort William and just start to hit bumps, and the thing would deflect and just, like, shoot off the side of the track, and I just, like, go blowing off the side of the track wide open and be like, "Dude, what the heck?" Like, I just can't hit things as hard as I wanna hit it. I don't know what the bike's gonna do. So, I struggled with that bike, but as much as I struggled and I got 20th at Fort William at the first World Cup, the next weekend when we went to Val di Sole, I went to a large or an extra large, whatever the next size up was, and it was too big for me, but then I qualified 2nd straight away with, like, what I thought was a pretty crappy run. I ended up getting hurt later that year, so I didn't really get a lot of more tries on that bike. So that bike was, it was hard for me to tell because I never like the sizing, like, it was either too small or, like, way too big, like, I was, like, right in between on the sizing, so it wasn't really a fair gauge. Um, and then my 14 and 15 Specialized, the 14 was a step up. I think I got the right size. I think I got 2nd in the overall that year. That was the year I got the flat tire at Leogang, so I think I woulda and
Yeah.
rode on the rim, I think I woulda won the overall that year if it wasn't for that race. Um, and then they came out with that new single-sided frame. That thing when we first got it was fast, but that bike was really harsh. That bike kinda sucked to ride, like the chainless Gwin bike. Um, we made it better through the off season coming into 2015, but I think at the end of 14 is when we got on it, and I remember we did a test at Angel Fire, and, I was like, "Yep, it's fast, but, like, holy crap, do you get feedback through your feet and your
Mhm.
hands?" And, like, the thing just felt rigid. So that was pretty crazy. Like that off season, I tested with Brad Benedict over at Specialized. Like he was really the guy that him and I like just kind of like he understood what I was looking for. We did a bunch of testing. They were working with McLaren on like carbon stiffness stuff at the time. So we put sensors on the bike and basically found out like the stiffness of the carbon and something with a link was just like not, and it just made for a really harsh ride. So they kind of massaged a different link and I think a different layup on some stuff and got that bike to just be a little more compliant. So that was the 2015 bike, the chainless bike. That was like the newer version of that. I really liked that bike. I got on with that bike really good. Then we went to YT. That bike straight away, the first time I rode it, it just felt comfortable and good and neutral, like nothing weird, kinda like the Crestline, honestly, that I'm on
Mhm.
now. Like, from the first day I rode it, I was just like, "Yeah, I feel like I could go race this tomorrow." Like, some bikes you're like, "Okay, like, I like this, but
Mhm.
Interesting. Like the setup's a little weird or the geo is weird. Like, do we have an angle set or do we have like, are
Yeah.
we trying to get a longer rear end or a lower bottom bracket or like the kinematics kind of back you into a corner? So you like, I kind of need a special shock to like get the feel I'm looking for. But the YT was definitely not the smoothest bike. It didn't do anything like incredible. Um, I felt like it carried speed really good, and it was just pretty good at everything. Like, it was just a very comfortable, well-rounded race bike, and I was just like, "Yeah, like, not the smoothest thing I've ever ridden through the bumps, but I can ride it fast. It's super predictable." Like, that's
Mhm.
actually what I like in a race bike is just something that's like, 90% at everything. Because usually to get absolute perfection in one area of the track, you're just gonna sacrifice somewhere else, and I don't like doing that.
Mhm.
So that bike was really good. That bike was pretty tough the rougher the track got. So the tracks like Val de Sol, like when you get the big steps, like
Mm.
repetitive hits, that thing started to get a little wild. Like it was just really hard to hang on to. It was a fast bike, but it would like beat you to death. Like I never remember feeling like that bike was smooth like ever. Like I go to a bike park and just be like, man, like it's stiff and it's fast, but it is not very smooth. Great for a race bike though. That bike was good. Then I got on the 29er, which was basically just actually I got on the newer version of that bike, and that's the bike I won Croatia. That bike
Yeah.
was really good. It was basically a refined 2S from the first one I rode. It was a little better in kind of every way. Um, I did really good on that bike and then started getting hurt, but I think that would have been a really good season. Then we went to Intense. Um, that one was a really tricky one again because I rode that M29 and I rode it. The day I tested that bike, we rode at Telonix, which is a trail in Laguna Beach that's really rough and fast. And like I said, that YT was never smooth in the bumps, especially like through your feet. And when I got on the M29, it was too small for me. It was a medium, and the reach was like probably 15 mil shorter than what I was used to. Um, so the bike felt fast, and I felt like I had less feedback through my feet, which for that track I thought was really good. I didn't have an opportunity to stay with YT, so it wasn't like I was picking one bike over the other. But when I rode the Intense, I was like, yeah, this thing's good. Like I can go fast if we can kind of like figure out the sizing a little bit and tweak this around. Like I think this will be a pretty good package. Um, Unfortunately, that ended up being a bit of a mission. Like, I've never changed more parts to try to get comfortable on a bike in my life than on that bike. Um, a lot of it, there was 2 things on that bike. One, the size, like the size was just really hard. The extra large was way too big for me, and large was way too small for me. I was like literally in the middle. We would go to national races in the US with 2 bikes, and I'd switch back and forth. Like I raced snowshoe that year and I switched frame sizes on race morning because I was just like, dude, this one is not working. Like if I could have just had the right size, that probably would have been 50% of my issue. I was just always compromising, riding a too small of a bike or too big of a bike. And we had reach headsets, maxed out, everything we could do. It just wasn't quite right. The cockpit. So that was a tough one. And the other thing that bike I like a bike that has a platform in the mid stroke that I can really push off and like
Mm.
generate speed. I don't know if it's my BMX background or what, but like I like to pump the track as I go and I like a bike that's responsive. And that bike just kind of lagged in the rear. Like that's why I think when I rode Laguna, when it was pinned and really hard pack and choppy, I was like, man, this thing's really smooth in the back. And it was a stable bike in that way, but it rode so low in the travel when I got to the World Cups. I really struggled with like if I made the shock stiff enough to have the hold up and the responsiveness I wanted, then it was like you just couldn't get the thing deep into the travel and it was like really harsh. And if I made the bike soft to feel good deeper in the travel, it was just felt dead off the top. So I was always battling the sizing and the shock on that bike. So that's one of the bikes I definitely struggled with. Um, then we went to the prototype version. All that was pretty messy because that's when COVID happened and I had
Mm.
injuries. So I never was on the bike more than like a month or so. We were trying to prototype, but I wasn't riding hardly very much with my injuries. So, and then COVID happened. So it just really kind of put us on our back foot for a while. Then we came out with that 4-bar bike in 22 that was kind of a step towards the current M1 that they have.
Mhm.
I really liked that bike. It was, super stable, super predictable. I rode that bike really well. It was heavy as crap, though. I think my race bike was, like, closing in on 44 pounds, and it was
No way.
not fast on the straightaways. Like, you get to Val di Sole and that thing would eat, but on the straightaways, when you're just trying to, like, get it out of a corner and accelerate it, it was just so heavy that I just knew I was giving up a lot of that free, like, rolling speed time. That's where I felt like I was, like, losing the races that year.
Mhm.
And then we got on the M1, which that was the bike Dakota and I developed a lot. We put a ton into that bike. I felt like that was the bike I needed to go start winning races. And then I got hurt at the first race and never got to really race that thing. But that bike's solid. That's a really good bike. So yeah, it was nerve-wracking for me when I got on Crestline. It was definitely a bit of a risk because the last VPP bike I rode was that intense and the M29, and I had problems with that bike. Not because of the suspension system. Now looking back, it was a sizing and a kinematic thing. But obviously, like I was hurt when I signed the Crestline contract, so I didn't ride the bike before I signed the contract. And I had just gotten done developing that M1 for literally like 5 years of like feedback and testing. I think like the entire time I was at Intense was like building up to like, okay, we got our bike now. And then it was like, just kidding. We're gonna go back to a VPP bike that we just spent 4 years building something that wasn't a VPP. So I was just like, but the kinematics on it and everything looked really good. And honestly, like fairly similar to what we were looking at. I chatted with Nico a bit. He had actually a little bit of input into helping with that bike. And the group that built it. And I'm looking at the numbers. I was chatting with some past engineers that I've worked with um, as well. And like, hey, what do you guys think? You guys know me, you know these numbers, like they actually look pretty close. And they're like, yeah, it actually, yeah, if you mess around with the link a little bit, like you could get it pretty close. And I was like, okay. So we ended up doing it. And the Crestline, dude, honestly, like I, I was very surprised because they didn't have like, I mean, Nico helped with that bike a little bit, and Troy didn't build a bike he thought would be fun. But wasn't like they had some big race team. Like Blankensop was on the bike, but he didn't have a lot of feedback. Like I rode the
Mhm.
exact same bike he did. But from the day I got on that bike, everything just sat in the right position. It's like the most comfortable bike I've ever ridden for sure. Um, I I part of that, I think also like the package of the Olin suspension. The Fox suspension was always really fast, but it's pretty harsh the way I had to
Mhm.
set it up to go fast. And I haven't ridden their latest stuff, so I can't really comment on that. But Olin stuff, like they managed to find the balance of like really good like suppleness off the top, like small bump sensitivity that where it doesn't beat you up, but then still has enough support deeper in the stroke to hold you up. So between that suspension and that bike, like, dude, I mean, I think the results showed like I didn't ride it at all. I rode it for 2 weeks, went to national champs, got second,
Mhm.
and then jumped straight in the World Cups and was like off the couch basically with no fitness or time. I did 0 testing on that bike last year, 0, like literally no suspension testing, no outside of the races. Like I just went to the race and I go talk to TJ at Olin's and I'm like, hey, dude, I need more support in the bottom. And he's like, all their stuff is like dampers. Like they don't tune things that much. They're just like they listen to me and they're like, all right, I'll build you a damper for that. And then like come back in 30 minutes. And then they're like, here you go, try this. And then I'd ride it. And every race as I got faster, I'd be like, hey, I need a little bit more support. And he's like, okay, I'll build you another damper. And so he built another one. And but really quick, like that just bike is one of those bikes that I feel like is very well rounded, does everything well. It is really light, which was interesting because I've been riding really heavy bikes for the last, I don't know, 5 years. The aluminum prototypes at Intense. My bike right now is like maybe 38 pounds with like
Mhm.
a coil shock, aluminum bars, aluminum cranks. Like it's not built up super light. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I just gave you like a 20-minute answer to probably a simple question. I could have just said the Trek or another bike. But That's the play-by-play of all my bikes. But,
No, it's cool. I mean, I
yeah,
got like an in-depth review of like
yeah,
every
yeah.
bike that you've ridden.
Favorite bike, I would say the one that I feel like is really good is honestly the one I'm on right now. I think just part of technology increasing each year. And like I said, just the comfort I had on it straight away. Like there's a few things that I want to mess around with now that I've ridden it a little bit. But yeah, like that's a bike that can go to a World Cup race and go really fast, and I can ride it at the bike park and it doesn't like kill me to ride. It's a pretty good bike.
If you guys enjoyed this clip, please like and subscribe. And to see the full episode, click the video right up here. Do it. Do it.
That was iconic.